Hello everyone, welcome back. In today's video, we've got another news and rumor video here to discuss. In today's video, we're looking at some news updates, some injury updates, a couple of the Olympic Games have started, we'll touch on that, and we've got some trade rumors involving the Wild, the Flyers, the Senators, and the Blue Jackets. We'll touch on all of that coming up right now. Hello everyone, welcome back to another video here at the End-to-End Hockey channel. Now before we start, don't forget to like this video and subscribe down below. Thank you for all of your support. I would never be able to do with all of you guys, so if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe button down below. We're on the road to 1,000 subscribers. We're going to try and hit 675 before the trade deadline, so hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and we'll stay tuned for more videos coming out in the very near future. Now I am still a little bit sick, so if my voice still sounds a tiny bit raspy, I do apologize. And I do have a quick channel announcement. I have created a Buy Me a Coffee page that is linked to my End-to-End Hockey channel page. So basically this is a page that allows you guys to make donations to the channel. Once again, don't do it if it's out of your means, but if you have $1 or $2 to spend and you like the content that I bring and you want to help support the channel, then go over to the website. I'll link it down in the description below, plus I'll try and leave a link to it on the actual YouTube channel as well. It helps out the channel. If you got a couple dollars, you can donate to the channel to help support the channel that I'm running here. I'd really love it, but once again, only do it if you can do it. I just want to let you guys know that I have set up a donation channel on Buy Me a Coffee, so definitely if you guys can, check it out. And also don't forget to stay tuned for my March 6th trade deadline. That is coming out on March 6th. It'll be about 11:30ish Mountain Time until about 1:32ish Mountain Time. We'll see how the stream goes, but I am planning on doing another trade deadline live stream, so check in on March 6th at 11:30 to see all of the content we'll bring out that day. But in today's video, we are talking about some news and rumors, and we're going to start off with the Olympic portion. There were 2 games in the Olympics yesterday, plus 1 today. I'm not sure if I'm going to keep the Olympics as part of like a trade rumor video thing, if I'm going to have my own separate videos about the Olympics. I'm not exactly sure at this current point in time, but the preliminary round has begun. It started yesterday with Slovakia and Finland, where Slovakia actually pulled off the upset, winning 4-1. Wild prospect goalie Halva did a really good job in net, stopping 39 of 40 shots. Finland's only goal scorer was Kraken player Eli Tolvanen. While for the Slovak team, they got a goal and an assist from Dalibor Dvorsky, the Blues prospect. Ruzicka, former NHLer, also scored. He got the empty netter. And Juraj Slavkovsky was brilliant, putting up 3 points, including 2 goals in this game. So Slavkovsky, who did really good during the last Olympics when he participated for Team Slovakia, continues his pace, and he was brilliant in that game. Then we saw Team Sweden and Team Italy actually go toe-to-toe for quite a bit of time before Sweden actually pulled away in the 3rd period and helped them take down Team Italy 5-2. Italy's the host nation, but they don't have a whole bunch of NHLers, so the fact that they were able to go toe-to-toe is really interesting. Sweden wound up winning the tournament with Dahlin having a 3-assist night. Forsling and Zibanejad both had goal and assist, and then Hedman, Landeskog, and Nylander also scored for Team Sweden, while Frigo and Bradley were 2 goal scorers for Team Italy, and Damien Clara, before getting injured, which we'll talk about in a minute, stopped 46 of 49 shots he faced for Italy in the loss. And then their backup, I can't remember his name, he stopped like 9 of 10 shots for Team Sweden. Like Sweden had 60 shots. If you just include the empty netter, they had 4 goals on 59 shots against the goaltender. Yeah, Italy's goaltending is really, really good. So that might be their strength going forward, but Sweden was able to come away with a victory. And then earlier today, before I recorded this video, we saw Team Switzerland open the scoring and shut out Team France 4-0. Impressive win there from Switzerland, who was expected to win this game. They have a lot more NHLers than Team France does. Riyadh scored for Team Switzerland. JJ Moser, Tampa Bay Lightning player, had a goal and an assist. And Timo Meier, Devils player, scored twice for Team Switzerland win, with Giannoni stopping all 27 shots he faced for Team Switzerland in the victory. So really good stuff there for Team Switzerland. While France started the tournament with a loss, so not great news there. And then as I'm recording this video, I think the last score I saw was Team Canada was up 2-0 or 3-0 over Team Czechia. I know for a fact that Celebrini opened the scoring, and after that, Marner had a beautiful pass to Mark Stone. They might have had 1 more since I last checked, I can't remember. But either way, it's either 2-0 or 3-0 for Canada right now over Czechia. There'll be 2 later games. USA will play Latvia, and Germany will play Denmark. By the time this video hits YouTube, those 2 games might already be over. So very interesting note there. We've had a very interesting start to the Olympics, so we shall see how the next few games go in this round robin round-robin tournament. Next, going over to a couple of injuries. Like I talked about earlier, Clara, who was playing in Italy against the Swedes, stopped 46 of 49 shots before leaving the game with a lower body injury and didn't return. I don't know the status of his tournament going forward, but Clara had a really good run with Team Italy, so hopefully it's nothing too serious, but bad news to see that Clara left that last game for Team Italy with an injury. Elias Lindholm, who missed the final 3 NHL games for the Boston Bruins with upper body injury, was active for injury reserve and gone to Olympic action for Team Sweden against the Italians. So very interesting note there. Good to see Elias Lindholm's recovered from his injury and is back to playing in the Olympics. And Jacob Fowler is expected to miss the AHL All-Star game with upper body injury. Hopefully it's nothing too serious. He's been a really solid third stringer for the Montreal Canadiens this year. So very interesting note there, but Fowler will miss the AHL All-Star game. So very interesting note there. A couple other quick updates. The Capitals have swapped goaltenders. So they've recalled Garrioch Bjorklund and sent down Clay Stevenson. Now they don't have any NHL games, but the AHL is still going on, so they want to get Stevenson some more AHL playing time. So he's going to the AHL. We'll see how he does there. And Bjorklund will be added to the NHL roster for the time being. The New Jersey Devils have placed Mike McLaughlin on waivers. McLaughlin, who was a trade deadline acquisition last year from the Boston Bruins, been a really decent call-up sort of forward there for the New Jersey Devils. Hasn't looked too out of place. Was placed on waivers. He started the season on season opening injury reserve this year. I think he was recently just activated, so he's now being placed on waivers. If he clears, which I think he should at this point in time, he's more of an AHL level player and is coming off an injury, then he should be able to get some AHL playing time. So very interesting note there, but the New Jersey Devils have placed Mike McLaughlin on waivers. I'll have to see if he winds up clearing, so very interesting note there, but Mike McLaughlin was placed on waivers by the New Jersey Devils. And Joshua Hosang, who just before the new year signed a KHL contract over in the KHL, has recently just been released from his KHL contract. So the former NHL player is going to have to look for new opportunity elsewhere as he's been released from his KHL contract. So some very interesting updates there regarding the Cap swapping their goaltenders, and then McLaughlin being placed on waivers and Hosang having been released from his KHL contract. So very interesting note there. And lastly here, going over to a couple of trade rumors. So going over to the trade rumor portion, we got a couple things to talk about. First, when it comes to the Minnesota Wild, some very interesting things when it comes to them. According to Pierre LeBrun, when they come back from their Olympic break, their main priority is going to be trying to add a top line center. Now this doesn't come as much surprise. I have talked about this for a little bit. They have pretty decent depth wingers and top 6 wingers, Boldy, Kaprizov, things like that. They also have a pretty decent defensive core after the addition of Quinn Hughes. And goaltending-wise, Gustafsson, Wallstedt, they're a pretty dang good goaltending tandem. But the one big problem they have is their centers. They have Eriksson, they have Yurov, Ryan Hartman can also play center if need be, but they don't have a clear-cut number 1 center, or at the very least, someone who can play like a tandem with Eriksson on a 1-2 punch down the middle. So adding a center's got to be the top priority at this point in time. They've been linked heavily with Vincent Trocheck. I think they would be a really good fit for Vincent Trocheck. I know Trocheck sounds like he wants to stay east, but I definitely think they'd be a fit for him. Thomas, Shen in St. Louis might make some sense, but I'm not sure if the Blues will be really willing to sort of deal in division. Same sort of thing with Nashville. I think O'Reilly could be a really good second line center for that team. Not sure if Nashville will want to do that. Other teams who have some centers available would be like maybe Elias Pettersson in Vancouver, though I don't know how they would do that cap-wise. Kadri in Calgary, will they have some interest in him? I could see that be a possibility. Not sure who else they could try and target, but it definitely seems like at this point in time, the big priority for the Wild is to get that 1 or 2 line center so they can have a solid 1-2 punch down the middle going into the playoffs. So very interesting note there, but keep your eye on the Minnesota Wild when it comes to them potentially adding a center. Next, going over to Nick Kyperos. I know he's not the greatest insider out there, not a name who I trust the most, but he is mentioning that his sources are saying that maybe the Philadelphia Flyers have some interest in Anthony Stolarz, a guy who actually used to play for the Philadelphia Flyers. Now, Stolarz is currently in Toronto. Now, I personally do not believe the Maple Leafs will move a goaltender before the trade deadline. I've seen a lot of people say that it's a possibility, but I think with Stolarz and Woll being terribly injured this year, I think if you trade Stolarz, you're risking yourself to potentially losing Woll to like an injury, and if they are going to try and make some sort of playoff push, you really want to have Hildeby be your goaltender, go-to goaltender if Woll went around with an injury. I don't think so. I still think there's a very likely chance they move a goaltender, but I think that's more of an off-season move rather than something they do at the deadline. So personally, I don't see Stolarz getting moved before this year's trade deadline, but if he was to get moved, I feel it makes a ton of sense. They seem to be looking for a new goaltender. They're really fed up with Erson. He's not played overly well this year. Third stringer Kolosov, whenever he's been called up, has not played overly well this year. Vladar's been good, but he's more of a tandem goaltender. So they're looking for someone who they can really help to bolster that team. There's not really very many starting level goaltenders on the open market beside maybe a guy like Jordan Binnington, and even that I don't think the Flyers are willing to pony up the asking price to get him out of St. Louis. But I definitely could see him try and go after Stolarz. He signed for 4 more seasons after this year at $3.75. He's not overly expensive. He's been really good for the Toronto Maple Leafs. With the Leafs now having Woll and Hildeby, they could be a little more open to moving Stolarz because they have a really solid goaltender in Hildeby. So I'm not going to say it's a guarantee to happen. Like I said, I think this is more of an off-season move, but I know the Flyers are in desperate need of some goaltending help, and getting back with Anthony Stolarz might make a ton of sense. So very interesting note there, but we'll have to keep our eye on Anthony Stolarz going forward, and maybe the Philadelphia Flyers could be a team who lands him. Next, going over to Aaron Portzline. He was sort of laying out the Columbus Blue Jackets plan leading up to the trade deadline, and he mentions that the Jackets are not looking to sell anymore after their 9-1-0 run since adding Rick Bowness. They apparently have changed their eyes and set their eyes on something else, and that is trying to sign their UFAs. They have, I think, 4 pending UFAs that make sense to sign. That's Gudbranson, Jenner, Coyle, and Marchment. Now, Coyle and Marchment are recent acquisitions. Gudbranson and Jenner have been with them for the last couple of years. Gudbranson's a pretty decent third pair defenseman. I think he'd probably be the most likely one to get dealt if they were to deal any of them. I'm not sure if they want to sign him to a long-term deal, but I can maybe see them sign him to maybe like a 2 to 3 year deal. Jenner's been their captain. He's a really good locker room presence, someone they love to have. There's a lot of talk about him being a potential trade deadline candidate, and maybe there's still a possibility that does happen, but apparently he also really likes playing in Columbus, so if they can work out a deal, I definitely think Jenner would like to stay. Coyle's been a really good fit with the Blue Jackets. Like, I know there's been a lot of talk about him being a trade deadline acquisition, but like, he's been really, really good for the Jackets. So unless they're getting some sort of a huge ask, I could see him try and re-sign Coyle too. I wouldn't be surprised about that. Marchment, he's also been fitting in pretty well. I mean, since he's been added to the Blue Jackets team, the Jackets have been pretty good, and Marchment's been a really solid fit there for the Blue Jackets. So I'm not sure if they'll get all these guys signed over the next couple of weeks leading up to trade deadline, but it seems like that's the priority for the Blue Jackets right now. Instead of selling some of their pending UFAs, it's to re-sign them. Apparently, according to Portzline, he also says that this team could look for an offensive finisher with term, so sort of like a goal scorer who can still be signed for the next couple of seasons. So maybe like a younger guy. So I could definitely see him being some sort of a big name who can maybe try and be added to that team, like add another top 6 forward to that team. That team looks a lot better. And apparently they could also look to try and add maybe like a small offensive addition, like a depth sort of guy. A name that's come up recently is former Blue Jackets Nick Foligno, who's currently playing in Chicago. That could be an interesting name they'll have to watch out for. A reunion with Foligno and Columbus might make a ton of sense. So very interesting note there. I'll have to keep our eye on that, but keep your eye on the Blue Jackets potentially not selling anymore and trying to re-sign their UFAs, maybe trying to go after a top 6 goal scorer, and maybe Nick Foligno reunion as well. So I have to wait and see on that. And lastly, going over to the Ottawa Senators. According to some recent reports, the Ottawa Senators do not want to sell. Even though they're in a pretty bad predicament when it comes to making the playoffs, they are still looking to buy entering the trade deadline, looking for a top 4 right shot defenseman and a top 6 forward. So very interesting note there. It seems like even after what has been a pretty sour season so far, Ottawa really does want to continue to try and buy. I do believe the Senators, if Ullmark can stay in the lineup and be consistent and they get some good goaltending, I believe Ottawa can go on a heater in March and potentially sneak into a playoff spot. I personally believe that. Might be my bias as a Sens fan. It might be. But I do believe Ottawa could go on a run. So the fact that they are looking to still buy makes a ton of sense in my opinion. They still have that forfeited first round pick, so they couldn't even tank and try and get a top 10 pick anyways because they don't have a first round pick. I don't know how they try and pull off sorts of deals to get a top 6 forward and a top 4 right shot defenseman. There's apparently been a lot of speculation, according to Dave Pagnotta, linking the Senators to Mackenzie Weegar, who is like a top 4 defenseman who can't play on the right side. That might make some sense. I'm not sure who they're trying to target when it comes to a top 6 swinger, Could be like a Kyru, like a Jake DeBrusk, someone like that. That's a possibility. And I do wonder if they maybe try and make some sort of a deal, sort of like last year when they traded Norris for Cousins. I wonder if that's something that they maybe try and work through too. So we'll have to wait and see on that. But according to Bruce Garrioch, even though the Senators are on the outside looking in right now, according to his reports when they come back from the Olympic break, they are still going to be trying to buy, and they want a top 6 forward and a top 4 defenseman. So definitely, I'll have your thoughts on all this down in the comment section below. Do you think it'll be a smart idea for the Ottawa Senators to buy? Do you think that the Minnesota Wild will get their center help? Do you think the Flyers could land Anthony Stolarz? And are you surprised that the Jackets might be keeping their UFAs? Definitely thoughts on all of that, plus all the news updates, all the injury updates, and all the Olympic updates. Definitely really thoughts on all of that down in the comment section below. That's all I'm going to talk for today. Remember to like this video. If you're listening, subscribe below. Thank you for all of your support. I would never be able to without you guys. So if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe button down below. Don't forget to leave a comment. We're on the road to 1,000 subscribers. Don't forget to stay tuned for videos coming out in the very near future. Once again, check out my Buy Me a Coffee page if you want to support the channel. Make a donation. I really do appreciate that if you guys do. I also do a blog talking about news, rumors, and analysis, stuff like that. So you can check that out. I'll link to that in the description below. Can't wait to see you guys all for the next video. See you guys soon.